We return one final time, for now, to the world of Halifax Prime. From epic highs to monstrous lows, relive the highlights of this war and all the minor skirmishes that occurred behind the scenes as we explore the recovered military files from the Halifax Prime campaign. Imperial defences were spread thin across the Gomorrah sector to begin with, when the Halifax Prime siege began. The Orcs were led by the ferocious war boss, Captain Crook, as he led his marauders from the Space Hulk that crash-landed just west of Darrow's Hamlet. Halifax Prime is a world covered in major cities and industrial centres, from Halifax Prime itself to Ratland Hive, Tartarus City, Cyrus City, Starlight Starport, the Anvil, and of course where it all began, Darrow's Hamlet. The Orcs needed this world in order to spearhead their advance across the Gomorrah sector, and as the Hulk thundered through the atmosphere and crashed into the deserts, they prepared themselves for the bloody war that was to come. The prelude to the conflict began at Darrow's Hamlet, with the fearsome Captain Crook leading his marauders personally into the battle against the forward vanguard forces of the Human Defense Force. The Orcs scored a critical victory in this battle, and it was covered in depth in our Battle with Darrow's Hamlet video, where you can find out more information and a play-by-play of the events as they occurred. The Orc assault managed to smash through the forward defenses, eliminating the 1st Imperial Guard army of the war. Kicking things off properly with the Orc Marauders' first turn, they surged across the Amendius River, clashing hard against the Imperial Guard's 7th Army and the militia. Skirmishes from Ratland Hive proved fruitless as the Orcs just bloodied themselves against the stern walls. Meanwhile, at Halifax Prime itself, the Orcs prepared a massive assault, headed personally by Captain Crook, as the Orcs threw everything they had at the walls of the city. The Human Defense Force had been preparing their defenses for some time, and this epic clash resulted in the Orcs only losing a stack of their units, whilst the city held firm. In the south, Warboss Stealthfinger managed to gain some ground in the Ashen Waste, forcing the HDF back towards the Anvil, and on the western side of the battlefield, the massive Orc assault on Tartarus City was repelled amidst heavy casualties. In the south, Warboss Killer Kim led a daring for all-out offensive against Cyrus City, as well as the troops stationed across the Infernus River and the troops just outside the starport. Their assault was unsuccessful, and the HDF held their ground despite heavy casualties on all fronts. As the HDF first turn began, the Lord Commander himself wanted to oversee a successful counter-offensive against the Orc assault across Halifax Prime. So the HDF led a daring assault into the industrial sector, but this was repelled initially, and the HDF only had heavy casualties to show for their offensive. Wasting no time, the rest of their forces repositioned, moving up across numerous fronts as they prepared to face the Orcs head-on, while shoring up the defensives for future attacks. With both sides finally finishing off their first turn orders, the war for Halifax was really shaping up to be something different. Whilst the Orcs had pushed hard and had captured significant ground, they had taken heavy casualties, and now the HDF are preparing to build up their forces to go on the counter-offensive proper. On the Orcs' second turn, a gigantic horde from the west arrived to reinforce the Annihilator's depleted hordes, and in the south, the last of Killer Kim's reserves surged up from the Ashen Wastes as this warboss prepared to go on another offensive to capture Cyrus City. As the green tide of Orcs smashed through the outer defenses of the city, the human defenders could do little but retreat in the face of such an onslaught. Whilst the survivors retreated into the Ashen Wastes, they were able to hold the Orcs just across the Infernus River, and again, the battle just outside the starport ended in an exchange, with the Baneblade Tank Company giving their lives to ensure that the Titans made it safely back into the starport. Meanwhile, in the north, more orcs landed at Darrow's Hamlet, and also at the Orc Hulk landing site, prepared to push the offensive again against Halifax Prime. During the Human Defense Force's second turn, a massive mobilization effort was made, with more legions landing at Starlight Starport, and a massive redeployment, shifting from Commander Valorant's men, their position at Tartarus, down just below the Anvil. It was during this turn as well that a detachment of the Battle Brothers 13th Assault Company arrived in system, prepared to bring the fight directly to the Orc menace. These Marines had fought long and hard against the Orcs hiding within the Gomorrah sector, and it was with their support that the offensive into the Ashen Wastelands just outside the Anvil was deemed a success, completely annihilating Stealthfinger's force here. As the Orcs entered their third turn, a renewed offensive in north against Halifax Prime saw the city fall with ease to the gigantic assault from Captain Crook's men. And also in the north, across the Mendes River, a brave detachment of the Human Defense Force warriors made their final stand at Orcs Drift, holding off the Orc assault long enough to lead to an exchange in forces, leaving them alive but isolated as the Orcs continued to surround them without hope of escape. Just outside Starlight Starport, Killer Kim tried their luck to push the defenders back, but their battle wagon assault was pushed back with little ease. The offensive all across the southern flank continued to push hard against the HDF lines, however the Orcs were unable to make a decisive breakthrough, bringing their turn to an end. As we flip back over to the HDF's third turn, their assault to recapture Cyrus City pushed hard against the Orcs, managing to drive them out of the Ashen Wastelands as the rest of their units moved up to support their defensive position, anchored around the Anvil. Just outside of Starlight Starport, the titanic battle of the war and a deciding factor in the War of the South took place, as Orc war machine Gargants fought against the Titan legions under Commander Titanicus. The battle ended in a great HDF victory and the momentum taken out of Killer Kim's offensive in the south. The Orc fourth turn saw a gigantic assault by the Annihilator, which took down Tartarus City after taking heavy Orc casualties. And over at Ratliner Hive, a desperate Orc commando infiltration team clashed in the spires above the city, and with an unrelenting assault, and with reinforcements bearing down on them, the Orcs were able to take Ratland Hive, scoring enough victory points to bring the campaign to a close. But the Human Defense Force were not out yet, and decided that on their fourth turn, they would reposition all available forces just outside the Starlight Starport for their final stand on Halifax. Now, both sides were deciding on what would be a fitting end to this campaign. The HDF had rallied all of their forces, and the Orcs had managed to shift what units they could down towards Starlight Starport, and it was decided that one last battle would be key to topping out this campaign that had raged for many weeks at this point. So, in the trenches and the bunkers just outside of the Starport itself, the Lord Commander and Captain Crook rallied their forces for one final battle. And in this epic clash of heroes and titans, many Orcs and HDF and Battle Brothers were slain under the shadow of the final HDF true holdout on Halifax Prime. And finally, after the dust settled of our long community campaign, after many weeks of back and forth, from small skirmishes to full-on battle report videos, the Orcs had claimed a heroic victory over the HDF on Halifax Prime. So for now, our story comes to an end, with the HDF in full retreat, and the Orcs ransacking Halifax for every last shiny bit of loot they could find. The battle for the Gomorrah sector of space has only truly just begun. Join us next week as we take part in the first space battle for our wider galactic campaign.